What's up, guys? People's Champ checking in with another great recipe for you today. Now, I was much excited to get the brand new salted caramel in my life this week, thanks to MTS. So today we are going to use this for a recipe. We are going to make some kind of different cookies, and I'm gonna make a whole batch of cookies that you can eat in one sitting. So real quick, a couple ingredients you may or may not have on hand that make this recipe a little bit different are we are actually not using any flour for this recipe. Our carbohydrate source and kind of our, not really fat source, but what's going to add some moisture to this recipe are going to be garbanzo beans, or also known as chickpeas. So we're going to use this in the recipe to kind of give it a really different kind of cookie flavor, but I promise you will not be able to taste any type of bean in it. These are actually really great to add into baking, so make sure you get some of these on hand. The other thing we're going to use too is some of the sugar-free, fat-free Jell-O pudding mix. Again, these are great to have on hand to throw into baked goods. It adds a nice sweetness to it without adding any other sweetener, and it kind of helps accent the flavors of your baked goods. So today what we're going to make are some salted caramel cookies with a little butterscotch twist to it. Because I just think butterscotch really helps the flavor of caramel. It kind of all tastes similar. So to get started, the first thing you're going to want to do is preheat your oven at 350 degrees. And then I have got a cookie sheet right here with a piece of parchment or wax paper on top sprayed. So we're going to go ahead and set that aside. And the first thing you're going to want to do is take your garbanzo beans. I've got measured out 1/2 cup of the garbanzo beans. I'm going to dump those right in my bowl. Couple of options here on your garbanzo beans. I'm kind of lazy. I don't feel like actually using a blender. You certainly can toss these bad boys right in the blender, food processor, whatever you got, or you can just spend a few extra minutes and do as I'm doing to take the spoon and basically mash them down into the bowl. And you're just going to want to kind of mash them up till you get like a nice consistency with them. The one thing I'll say about the garbanzo beans is not only do they taste great in this recipe, you don't even know that they're there, but they add extra 7 grams of fiber into this recipe, and they also had an extra source of protein. So beans are definitely great to add into the diet, and a lot of times most people don't know what the hell to do with them or how to use them. So this is a great way to kind of incorporate beans into your diet and still have something tasty. So I've got the garbanzo beans all mashed up. Not a big deal if it's not totally smooth, but mash it up pretty good. And then we're going to add up the rest of our ingredients. Add in the rest of our ingredients. So we are going to add our salted caramel, and we're going to add 1 full scoop. This smells so good. If you guys don't have the salted caramel on hand, it is limited time. I would recommend getting this flavor before it's all gone. But you could also sub in there caramel sutra, which is another great one to have on hand, or maybe even caramel macchiato epic gains if you don't have this. So 1 full scoop of that. For our cheesecake mix, I'm going to throw this on the scale actually to measure it out. I'm going to add 1 serving of my cheesecake mix, which ends up being about 8 grams. So I just want to weigh it out. Okay, there's 8 grams of that. Take that off the scale for now. And then we're going to add some baking powder to help it rise. We're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of that in there. Okay. And next, I have here some of this Jordan Skinny Syrups. This is a sugar-free caramel. I picked this up at, I think it was either TJ Maxx or Marshall's. You can order these online. Not essential to this recipe, but I'm just going to add a little bit in there for a little extra caramel flavor. Add a full teaspoon of that. But then I am also going to add in some sugar-free maple syrup by Maple Grove Farms. So if you don't have the caramel syrup, you could just maybe add a little extra of this. I'm not going to measure it out. I'm just going to kind of like, drizzle it on there. Get a little crazy with it. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and just mix this up a little bit more and see what we're working with. So it's going to seem kind of dry, but before you add any extra wet ingredients to it, just make sure you blended it up really good. It just takes a few minutes to kind of get it all blended in there. Yes, there we go. It's blending right up. Now remember, you're not gonna have a ton of batter because this is gonna make, literally you can eat this whole portion. The macros on it are gonna be very macro friendly. Yes, see, that's coming along perfect. Smells delish, plop. Okay, so now that we've got that all mixed in, again, this is optional, but I do wanna add some butterscotch morsels to this, so I'm just gonna measure out, let's see the nutritionals on this bad boy. 1 tablespoon is 14 grams. I'm just gonna measure out 7 grams, and then what I'm gonna do, instead of adding the chips, heyo, instead of adding the chips to the batter, I'm just gonna keep them set aside and I'm gonna add them to the top of the cookies. So you only get so many chips for half a tablespoon there. So I'm gonna set that aside. And now that we've got the batter here, you can basically make the cookies whatever size you want. If you want them really big, really small, I kind of want to get like 10 to 12 cookies out of it. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of take it tablespoon by tablespoon and portion it onto the pan. Making them rather big, so I'm probably only gonna make about 6 by the looks of it. You could certainly use a smaller portioning device and make more cookies out of this. So now that you've got all your cookies there, what I'm going to do is, to make it even more salted caramel, I'm gonna take some pink Himalayan sea salt and I'm just gonna do a little sprinkle right on top of each to give it that little bit of saltiness. And then with my butterscotch chips, I've got, let's see, I'm just gonna start putting a couple on each of them. That way they're right on top. Like I said, this is optional, doesn't really adds a little bit more carbs and fat, so totally up to you depending on your macros. You wanna add them or not. So I've got my 6 little salted caramel cookies. We're gonna throw these in the oven, 350 degrees for about 10 to 12 minutes. Strawberry kiwi. All right, guys. Cookies I took out of the oven at 8 minutes because I didn't want them to overcook. It's always a fine line when you're baking with protein. So how many did I get out of this? 6 cookies of salted caramel butterscotch deliciousness. They fluffed up nicely and super awesome macros on these, you guys. It could basically count as like a meal or a snack. Only 5 grams of fat, about 30 protein and about 30 carbs. And that does include the butterscotch chips, so totally up to you if you want to add those or not, but very great macros. I love it when you can just like know you can eat like a whole plate of cookies. You know you want to eat a whole plate of cookies, you guys. So give these recipes a try. I hope you guys like it. You can find more at my channel, Kara Corey Fit Life. Be sure to go to tigerfitness.com using the link in the description box to get all your MTS goods. Salted caramel's not going to be here forever, folks. You guys are going to want to take advantage of this. So check that out and keep checking back for more.